Welcome everybody to Brown, Bearded, and Disabled. I am your host, Jaime Torres. I'm going to be telling you stories of how I became disabled and how I'm learning to live life with my newfound disability. Okay, it's finally happening. Welcome everybody to my first episode of my podcast. I figured with all the thousands of podcasts out there, I figured I'd throw my hat in the ring and maybe you guys can use another one. And for those who don't know, I suffered a brain bleed on August 14, 2015, and it left me temporarily disabled. So I have to relearn everything we all take for granted, like talking, breathing, walking, everything. I have to learn how to play music again, which is my passion. And I also am learning how to speak and enunciate better because my speech was affected. So if you hear me mumble, that's why I'm mumbling. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about the day my brain bleed happened. So thanks again, and here we go. Okay, so I have been wanting to do this podcast for like 2 years now, but I just wasn't ready to do this. So here I am today, and I am ready to talk about these stories and what happened to me. And, let's get it going. On August 14th, 2015, like I said, I suffered a brain bleed. Now let me paint the scene of how it all happened, how it all went down. So I was working at a medical marijuana dispensary in Berkeley, California. It was called CBCB, Cannabis Buyers Club of Berkeley, and it was 2 blocks from where my ex-fiance and I lived. And I technically lived in North Oakland, but across the street is literally the border of Berkeley and Oakland. And being Mexican, crossing the border is in my blood. I had no problems doing it every day. So the way I had it set up, my work schedule was pretty sweet. I was working Monday through Thursday from, it was 10-hour shifts, so I had my 40 hours. And I would have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off to do whatever. Well, it was my Thursday. It was a Thursday night, which would be my Friday. And I was getting ready, packing up, closing everything down in my area. And I noticed that my boss's boyfriend was bringing all these paint supplies inside, and I was like, okay. And he was supposed to paint the dispensary the whole night, and apparently he didn't have help. And I used to be an apprentice painter, so I know that you can't do that on your own. He tried to do interior painting all by himself, a whole room, and it was quite large, and I know he wasn't going to do it by himself. So I was, trying to be a good guy, and I offered to help. And my boss said, well, there'd be extra hours, and living in the city, it's expensive. So I figured my ex and I could use the money, because we work 6 days a week over there and only had Sundays off. That's just how it is in the city. You work. So I ended up staying. You know what? I'll just stay for a few hours. I called Amy, which is my ex-fiance, and I told her, hey, I'm going to stay a little bit extra and help out. And she's like, okay. So that was that. And I ended up staying all night long. I took this project on. I'm just determined to help him finish painting. So, like I said, I stayed all night. But the mistake I made, I didn't call Amy and let her know I was going to stay all night. And I was a bad boyfriend, and I didn't do that. That's the worst thing you could do. And, as a partner, so the worst thing you can do is not let your partner know that you're not coming home. And, it was 3 a.m. I was freaking tired. We were painting, and, I had finished all the prep work earlier, but it was 3 a.m. where we stopped, took a break. My boss busted out her pipe and gave me a hit of whatever weed she had that day. And whatever it was strong enough to put me out. I just ended up laying down on the couch, I'll just close my eyes for a little bit. Yeah, that little bit turned to a couple hours. I woke up at 5 a.m, and I saw her boyfriend already painting. So I got up real quick and I helped him. I helped him finish painting the rest of that dispensary, the living room of the dispensary. And we were cleaning up, putting everything away, and it was 7 something, past 7, almost 7:30, I guess. So I start walking home after I finish helping, and I'm like, shit, I totally forgot to call Amy. Oh my god, this is gonna get horrible when I get home. So I knew we were gonna get into an argument, and I was nervous. I mean, cause I who loves fighting with their partner? You know, nobody. But I just felt my heart and my anxiety, my heart pounding. My anxiety levels were just going up, and I can almost feel my heart in my throat, like just thumping away. I was like, shit. I'm all trying to like, how is Amy gonna believe that I was at work all night? You know, and so I'm walking home, which is only 2 blocks from the dispensary, and it's a beautiful morning, sunny, and it was sunny. You know, the birds were chirping. It was almost 8. It was like 7 something, almost 8. And to get into our studio apartment, you go through a back gate to the back of a house, and we rented the basement, which the owner of the house converted into like a studio apartment, and that's where we lived. So there's a gate to get into the backyard to even access our door to get inside our studio. And so I opened the gate, lock it, put the key in the back door or our entrance of our studio, and right when you open the door to the entrance, you immediately are in the kitchen, and there's a hallway that leads to the wide living room area, which we convert like a studio. So we had like a living room / sleeping area, and to the right of the kitchen was the bathroom. So that's the layout. It was not big, but it was a great location where we were at, and well, it was cozy. So I walk in, and she immediately, I knew she was gonna be mad. Immediately wanted to know where I was at, and so I was at work, and she didn't believe me, and we were just arguing back and forth, and I was like, I was at work. I was literally at work all night. I'm sorry I forgot to call, so I kept apologizing that it was my fault that I didn't call, and she didn't like any of the answers I was giving her. So while she was yelling, I could feel like this buzzing on the back of my head, and it felt like a swarm of bees were just in my head, just in the back, and it was unbearable. It was like horrible. Like, oh my god, I could just feel my blood pressure rising in a way I haven't felt before. Like, my ears were getting hot, they were throbbing. I mean, I knew something was like, ooh, I didn't like what I was feeling. I wanted it to stop. So in the middle of all this arguing, I really not listening to what she's saying. I just know that she's yelling and her energy is really off right now. So I ended up, I don't know why. I mean, I know now, but then I ended up reaching for a hard, like a heavy baking pan, and I started hitting the top of my head repeatedly over and over, maybe like 5 or 6 times, really, really hard. Well, I freaked out Amy, and of course, I looked like a maniac. I mean, sheesh. Anyways, so she's like, I can't deal with you anymore. I gotta go to work. I'm running late. So she has to go to work, and she leaves, and she has to take the subway into the city, San Francisco. So the subway's only like 3 blocks away from where we lived. It wasn't very far. So she left, and I'm there. I'm crying because I'm just angry, and my blood pressure started going down. It's like I started feeling like, oof, dizzy, but you know, the buzzing kind of went away for the most part. Sorry. And I figured, you know what? I'm just gonna take a shower and take a long nap. And I'll be fine. That was exactly what I thought. So I get into the living room, and I put my phone to charge, and I walk down the hallway into the bathroom, get ready to get in the shower. And as soon as I get in the shower, I feel my blood pressure just get up again, like rise really high. I'm like, oh shoot, I don't like this. I started feeling dizzy. And at first I thought it was just my blood pressure, but then that buzzing came back really hard in the back of my head. And I was like, oh, this is not good. So the best way I could describe it is like when a car has a problem, it'll tell you, it has a check engine light. Yeah, I can feel that going off in my body. I started feeling that buzzing, and that buzzing was just getting more intense in the back of my head, but this time it was just spreading throughout my body like wildfire, and it wasn't going away. And I was like, oh shit, this is not good. This is very serious. So I'm freaking out because I never felt anything like this before, and I knew something was wrong. So I run down the hallway, get my phone. I call Amy, and she answers. I'm like, "You need to come back, please, and I need you to call an ambulance. Something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong. Please come home. I need an ambulance." So that's what I told her. She's like, "Okay." So she hangs up, and at this point, I'm just in my boxers because when I got out of the shower, I just put on my underwear and boxer briefs for those inquiring minds. And so I hung up the phone with her, and I was just starting to feel even worse. I mean, this feeling was like intense. I could feel my body like buzzing, and my blood pressure was really, really high. I thought I was gonna pass out at any minute, and I was freaking out. And I don't know why, but I ran to the backyard in my underwear, and I am screaming out, "I'm dying!" Really, really loud. And it was a really nice neighborhood, so you don't hear people yelling that early in the morning. So I'm yelling, "I'm dying," and I really felt like I was dying because this was a horrible feeling I was feeling. I never felt anything like this in my life. I mean, I've been suffering from high blood pressure, and I know when my blood pressure is high, but this incident was very different. This buzzing came really intense. So I'm in the backyard in my underwear, and my body is buzzing. And what happened next is like everything, my vision is starting to get a little bit cloudy and blurry. And I'm like, "Ooh, this is definitely not good." All of a sudden, it felt like I was in a movie theater watching me on a big screen die. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. I was watching everything, but I was no longer in control of the situation. I was waiting for Amy, and you know what? I'm just going to walk towards the gate, so when she gets there, she can just find me and call an ambulance. So I started walking towards the gate, and when I did, I had noticed that I was losing my footing. I was starting to stumble. I'm like, "Oh, snaps." So I ended up falling like on some flowers, but it was surrounded by a little wired fence. And on the corner of that little wired fence, it gave me a scratch right on my left tit, my boob, my man boob. And I didn't know it cut me at the time. I just felt pressure. I couldn't feel pain or anything at that point. I just felt pressure. So I fell, and I fell on the cement floor right there. And there's a garage in the backyard, so I ended up leaning against the back garage, sitting down. And Amy showed up, and she showed up quick because, like I said, the subway system was only like 2 or 3 blocks away, so she got there in the quickness. And she came up to me and, "What's going on?" And I was letting her know, "I don't know, I need an ambulance. I need an ambulance." And right after I said that, the neighbor yelled out, "Everything okay?" And then Amy just responded immediately, "We're fine." In my head, I'm like, "Oh, hell no, we are not fine. This is not good. Like, I am not fine. Nothing is fine." And all of a sudden, I just started vomiting all over myself. I mean, I couldn't even move at this point to control, like, so I wouldn't vomit on myself. So I ended up just vomiting all over my chest, my stomach. My head was leaning down towards the left. I couldn't even move at that point. My eyes went crooked, and all I kept saying was, "Call me an ambulance. Call me an ambulance." And Amy thought I was, messing around, like, thought I was faking. She told me to get up. But when she saw my eyes go crooked, she immediately knew something was wrong, and I called an ambulance. So there I am waiting for an ambulance, which felt like forever, and I could just feel myself just fading. I'm like, "Oh shit, this is it. I'm dying. Like, I'm gonna die in my underwear in the backyard." And while all this is happening, like, I'm praying to God, like, "Please God, not this far from my family, not in the backyard in my underwear, not like this. I'm not ready." Like, I remember just saying in my head, like, "I'm not ready." So everything is starting to get blurry. My vision's cloudy. I can barely even move at this point. And I can vaguely remember the paramedics getting there, and they were asking questions, and Amy was letting them know what was going on. She told them I hit my head with a freaking muffin pan, and they thought that I had brain damage, or brain swelling because of it. And they also thought maybe I was ODing on something, because at that time there was a huge heroin epidemic going on in Oakland, and they just assumed I was ODing on heroin, which I wasn't. And they put me on a stretcher, and at this point, like, I can only see flashes that I can remember. Like, I can vaguely remember them carrying me into the ambulance. And I remember, this is so morbid and so weird, I was disappointed because my life didn't flash before my eyes. I was like, fucking whack. Here I am thinking my life was going to flash before my eyes like they do in the movies, and I felt cheated. It happened, but much later, and I'll talk about it later. But yeah, I was so disappointed that my life didn't flash before my eyes, and the last thing I can remember before they put me in the ambulance was, this sucks. Like, poor Amy has to see me die. Like, that's all I can think of. Like, I couldn't even think, what was going on. I was freaked out, but my mind was still on Amy. Like, she has to see me die. And I remember just, like, being in the back of the ambulance. They closed the door, and that's all I can remember. I mean, Amy would tell me that I was still saying things, still conscious in the hospital, but that was the last thing I could remember, was being put in the ambulance, and everything went dark. I thought I had died. I mean, that's exactly what I thought. I thought I died. And that's all I can remember at that point. So after the paramedics loaded me into the ambulance, they took me to Highland Hospital in Oakland, California, and that's where they put me in a medically induced coma to to bring down my blood pressure. I guess it was skyrocketing and at dangerous levels, and in order to take care of that, they had to put me in a coma. I have no recollection of any of this. This is, things I've been told by Amy years later. And I will talk extensively about my coma experience. It's a crazy story, but I'm going to save that for the second episode. And that's going to do it for the first episode of Brown Bearded and Disabled. A little short, I know, but there's no format to this. I'm just going to be telling my stories. So I'm going to try to keep this between like 25 minutes to 45 minutes. And each episode will vary. This one happened to be a little short. But it's the intro. It's the premiere, world premiere, if you will. And I would like to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. And I would also like to thank my official sponsor, Tri-Cities Black Belt Academy. Well, they're my only sponsor, really. But I'm always looking for new sponsors. Yeah, Tri-Cities Black Belt Academy out of Pasco, Washington. That's where I've been doing a lot of my recovery. Master Mendoza has helped me give back my confidence, and that's something I was lacking for a long, long time. I feel like I've been recovering a lot faster and getting stronger doing martial arts than physical therapy. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and check them out. You can't go wrong. Time for an update. So right now, I am currently training to climb Badger Mountain in Richland on September 28th at 8 a.m. So if you want to come out and join, the more the merrier. Again, that's September 28th at 8 a.m. Hope to see you all there. Thanks again for listening. Amor y paz.